Hi, and welcome to Get Curious with Kirsten, where we talk about the intersection of curiosity and leadership. I'm wondering if this scenario has happened to you. You send a text or email asking someone for information, and you don't hear back from them for days. Zip, zilch, nada. What do? If you're like most of us, you'll probably make up a story in your head about what's going on. And more than likely, it's not a good story. It's actually probably a worst case scenario kind of story, isn't it? Recently, I was trading emails with a client about scheduling our second coaching session. I reached out a few times, but I didn't hear anything back. And then days went by. During this time, I made up a story in my head that he didn't really click with me as a coach and he didn't want to work with me anymore, even though there was no information to back that up or to lead me to believe that was true. Soon thereafter, he emailed and apologized for the delay in getting back to me because there had been this big crisis at work. We continued to work together and the rest of the coaching engagement went very well. So how can I explain the phenomenon that I experienced in that story? Well, I'd like to share a quote from Brené Brown. Some of you may recognize her name. She's a social science professor, a TEDx speaker, and an author of many books. In her book, Rising Strong, she said, quote, "In the absence of data, we will always make up stories. In fact, the need to make up a story, especially when we're hurt, is part of our most primitive survival wiring." What can we learn from this? That in the absence of information, the people will make up stories about what's going on in order to make sense of things, and they won't be good stories. So if you're a leader of a team, you need to know that this dynamic exists. Make sure that you're not creating a vacuum where people can make up stories like this. It's important to communicate and over-communicate so your team members know what's going on. So for example, share the why behind a new policy that's being put into place. Share your company's strategy, the reason why a new direction is happening with a project. Communicate your values. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And when you receive a request for information and you don't have that information available to give to that person right away, in the example that I gave for the client I was reaching out to, please don't ignore the request, thinking to yourself, I'll get back to them when I have more information or I have time. Because if you don't respond to them, they won't know what you're thinking. So instead, I encourage you to shoot them a quick response, could just take a few seconds, that says, I can't get to this now, but I can forward that report to you by Thursday. Will that work? Your response lets them know a few things: that you received their message, that you're busy right now, and you're trying to juggle it with other priorities that you have, and that they can expect the report from you on Thursday. You also gave them, in that example, the option to reach out in case what they needed from you had to happen before Thursday. They needed that report by Wednesday, for example, in which case the two of you can negotiate and figure out a different way to get their needs met. Also, keep in mind, if you don't have the information they're seeking, go ahead and just tell them that. This will allow them to move forward with the project and not delay them in what they need to get done. Or perhaps you're waiting on additional information from another third party. Go ahead and communicate that as well. At least by communicating some information, they can understand where things stand. But if you don't respond to the initial request and you ignore that text or email, I guarantee the person who initiated that request will make up a story about why you didn't get back to them, and it won't be in your favor. And this is how misconceptions and gossip start and spread. So do yourself and your team a favor and be responsive. Don't allow stories to be created due to your silence. Instead, communicate, communicate, communicate. If you enjoyed this video today, please make sure to click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Until next time, stay curious.